Greetings from the far side of the galaxy, I'm Fury, your host the most, here with a brand new kind of video, again. You read the title, and if I wrote it right, you should know exactly what we're doing. We're taking a look at the top 10 best units in Housamo, and the metrics for deciding what is what are as follows. First, buffs and debuffs. They're the bread and butter of this game. The more useful the buffs, the more useful the character is, and all buffs are not equal. Curse isn't nearly as good as Stigma, and Stigma isn't nearly as good as Fear, and you know it. 2. Synergy, meaning how well a character plays with others and how many. Certain characters don't have good buffs or debuffs, but make up for that with a skill that just has immense utility. And 3. Coolness, which is just how cool they are. This is a gacha game and we're here for the characters, so like the cooler they are, the higher they go. Be aware that the metric score is curbed, so even if a unit gets a low score in a category, they'd still dominate when compared to most of the catalog. Now, with the metrics out of the way, let's get shiggy diggy down with it with number 10. Banan Seed. You should know exactly why she's on the list, and it's thanks to one guy. That being Cthulhu. Why? Allow me to explain. Lanan's entire gimmick is that she basically applies every attack buff in the game to whoever she moves behind. Cthulhu's entire gimmick is that he gains CP for every buff he gets and his CS has infinite range. Do you see the problem? Just move her behind him and he turns into a full screen nuke. Anything below chapter 8 can't beat these guys. That's how busted of a team they are. I could have given this spot to either one, but I gave it to Lanan because Cthulhu just frankly isn't that good. And Lanan isn't that good either, but at least she can guarantee whoever she moves behind can one-shot just about anything. That means her synergy is, well, terrible even compared to other units outside the top 10. The buffs she gives aren't that good when they're limited by how many people they can actually hit at once. Cthulhu bypasses that with his infinite range CS, but others don't have that privilege. And just like how her buffs are limited by whoever she moves behind, do they matter if only one person gets to use them? On the bright side, Lanan is really cool in the story. She's a member of the Entertainers, which is one of the guilds run by the Game Masters. She finds herself trapped between her obligations to her guild and betraying her friends, which is really neat. She's also in the Valentine Coliseum event, which reveals that when she's not having a moral crisis, she's causing problems on purpose. Love that. 10 out of 10. We stand a queen. Moving on, we have number 9. Krasnik. This guy is the baseline for what makes some of the best units in that he doesn't have any real weaknesses, just strengths. The only reason the others are higher is that their strengths just impact the board much more. Scoring Krasnik, his buffs and debuffs are his weakest attribute because he doesn't really spread either. That being said, he does have some great ones for himself. Nourishment gives him a lot of staying power and combo keeps his damage up even when he's not buffed. His real strength is his weapon change, switching from sword to gun when he misses and getting crit to go along with it. That's what gives him such a high score in synergy since he fulfills 2 roles at once. He can be a long range unit and a close range unit while leaving you space for others. He's one of my go-tos since he fits with so many teams and can shore up so many weaknesses. Krasnik wasn't even the 5-star of his banner, yet he ended up being the best one from it. He works with anyone and everyone, and he alone can carry just about any team to victory. Moreover, Krasnik's heckin' cool. Dude was a former anti-terrorist member, so he actually has quite the interesting history with other characters. He knew Masanori back before he became an invader and throws their history back in his face. There's also his relationship with Sandayu, which is just Lupin and Zenigata, but somehow gayer. He's also Ellie's not dad, and chapter 12 is funnier than it should be, seeing Krasnik just follow his angry not daughter all over the place. I need to get to reading a translation of Kabukicho Night because I want to see more of them. Anyway, moving on. But before we do that, let me ask that you please like and subscribe. I also have a Ko-fi and Patreon with a special Discord server where patrons can watch videos early. I'm also streaming Sonic Frontiers Monday and Friday, and with that, let's get back to the video. Number 8. Beachside Typhoon. Beachside Typhoon is something special because he has the second best debuff in the game. Charm. Charm just prevents your enemy from attacking point blank, and it always has garbage proc because Life Wonders knows how OD it is. Typhoon has the highest on-hit charm activation in the game at 40%, which is buffed to 50% thanks to concentration. And his other selection of buffs and debuffs are pretty good too. He has a chance to apply Burn to himself, but he also has Burn Strengthening. Burn Strengthening makes his already intimidating attack get even higher since it all stacks together. The biggest problem with his unit overall is his proc, seeing as how it's all pretty lackluster. The concentration helps, but even that has a 60% chance of working. His synergy is also mediocre, gaining advantage from both paralysis and charm, neither of which are too common. There's only like 11 units in game that have paralysis, and charm always has terribly low proc. As a character, Typhoon's not my favorite. Not that there's anything wrong with him, he's just always surrounded by characters who have stronger personalities like Gang Lee or Benton. This leads to him just kind of getting overshadowed by others. His unit is a lot like Gears. When everything's flowing together, he's great, but when they don't, he's... Still, as the best charm unit in the game with 50% proc and wand type, he's earned his place here. Number 7. I was a little torn on this one, but ultimately I have to give it to Hot Springs Horsu. I have a favorite way to sum up his gimmick, and it goes like this. He deals out null buff and burn and then punishes the enemy for having the audacity to have it. And this means the dude's damage shoots through the goddamn roof by like turn 2. Combine that with an attack up after moving, and this dude will basically be one-shotting anything with the audacity to fight him. And the debuffs he spreads are pretty good too. While burn is basically negligible, null buff is one of the best. It can prevent the first few moments of the fight being a nightmare when the enemies can't spread their buffs. Homie also gets nourishment and heals at turn start, meaning he has immense staying potential. Even if he's fighting water attribute, his elemental weakness, he'll probably win because he just heals so much. His synergy is also really good because he works with anyone who can deal null buff, but burn especially. And burn is one of the most common debuffs you can find, and Horsu even gets a damage boost from the stackable kind. Story-wise, dude, he's Horsu Kamui. He's one of Husamo's poster boys, so there's a lot of privileges associated with that. The entirety of Chapter 3 and 7 are basically his, and he even gets a role in Chapter 13. He's also one of those characters to have a history with their world's exiles, so every time he shows up, he gets some pretty neat lore. There's even rumors of him being the next character to get a statue. A statue. And while I will forever call Horsu Kamui basic, I appreciate the Ainu mythology, which is so criminally underused. And speaking about underused mythologies, or well, underused literature, we have number 6. One of my favorite characters in this game is Licho, and his unit actually has quite a lot to do with that. Surprise top 3 best debuffs in Housamo. Number 3, Skill Lock. Number 2, Charm. Number 1, Possession. And while it may have been number 3, Licho is without a doubt the best source of skill lock in all of Housamo. He spreads skill lock at 70% with wand type. That is an utterly insane feat when skill lock can gimp anything that isn't immune to it. He also has weapon change to fist on hit, meaning any units not in the front line are completely safe. And Licho himself takes reduced damage from blow type and gets extra damage against skill lock and all weapon change. Hot diggity gosh darn diggy dog, almost all 5 stars in this game aren't even as good as this 4-star. Licho is the best support unit in this game, or he was until 2 other options on our list entered the fray. His synergy is also pretty solid. He's generic and guarantees your squishier units don't have to take so much damage. And his low damage can even be fixed with other units that have skill lock or weapon change. And his coolness is through the roofs. He's one of my favorite characters. His role in the festival event was kind of lackluster, but he was the main feature of Jiangxi Night. It was a great story about a character with too much ego and an inferiority complex at the same time. He's my poor little meow meow and I love him. I know this is only half the list, but I have a research paper due on Monday and the most I've done is write my name, so I'm gonna have to pull the plug and call this part 1. That being said, it is, in fact, Patreon shoutout time. For our 3 stars, we have special thanks to 87 Werehog and Zoro Richao. We still have no 4 stars. No, wait, we do. Let's give a big round of applause to Mickey Moon, who's ready to show you what they're made of. And for our Super D2 mega special 5-star shoutouts, we have Unknown RC, who's entranced by the endless possibilities. Then Vanilla Flower, who always lives and learns from their mistakes. And Poor Mage, who just needs you to open your heart. And finally, Mahagasaur, who's falling free in the wind. This is where we end things. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out some of my other stuff and tune in to my live streams. As always, this is your host Fury, signing out.